My question is to the Minister of Finance. What steps is the government taking to improve its financial performance?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the government is taking steps to improve its management of capital expenditure. Total assets of the Crown have trebled over the past decade to more than $223 billion at June 2010. Yet the means by which this is funded and the way the capital is used is not transparent to the government, let alone to the taxpayer. Yesterday, the government released the first annual portfolio report, a concise summary of the financial performance of the Crown financial institutions, SOEs and Crown research institutes. Next week we will release the Crown's first investment statement, which will show in full the government's balance sheet and its investment intentions over the next 5 years.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What does the 2010 annual portfolio report show?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the portfolio report sets out the performance, in particular, of the SOEs. So excluding rail and post, SOEs earned $500 million and declared dividends of $386 million. Crown financial institutions collectively returned 12.8% last year following 2 years of losses. By the end of the year, the Crown had $40 billion invested in financial investments, and the Crown has around $700 million invested in Crown research institutes.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What will the 2010 investment statement show?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the investment statement will show the quantity of government assets and the ambition of the government's investment program to 2015. Net Crown assets are expected to grow by some $35 billion over the next 4 years, and total investment is around about $70 billion of fresh capital investment over the next 4 years. About half of this relates to services such as schools, hospitals, rail, broadband, roads and the electricity network. There is also a substantial accumulation within the Crown's investments funds, which are expected to grow by about $20 billion of investments through to 2015.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
To the Minister, how can he be claiming to be improving the government's net financial position when his deficit has just increased by almost $2 billion more than forecast in the last quarter alone?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the first place, the figures I've been talking about are the asset values of the government, whereas the deficit relates to our operating expenditure. But the member does make a fair point that the government can't continue to run very large deficits. This year it could be somewhere up to $11 billion, and we've set out a path to reach surplus by 2015. That will take some very significant fiscal discipline, which I know the member is opposed to, but it's the only way we'll get there.
Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, further to the Minister's answer to question 8 yesterday, when he said he would not be surprised if there were some quarters when annualised real GDP per capita had fallen in the last 2 years, can he now confirm that in fact annualised real GDP per capita has fallen in every single quarter since his government took office, meaning that average New Zealanders have consistently gone backwards and are still earning less on average today than the day he first took office?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, no, I disagree with the member's last point, but as I pointed out yesterday, in a significant recession you would expect real per capita incomes to drop, and the government has set out a plan to turn that around. However, we are dealing with the legacy of a government which managed to have negative growth in real per capita incomes even when the rest of the world was not in recession and the rest of the world was growing strongly. And I don't know how he managed it.
Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table the statistical table from page 8 of the monthly economic indicators published by the Treasury, which show that real GDP per capita has fallen every single quarter since the government took office until quarter 2000.
Leave us sort to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. David Bennett, my apologies.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. Why does the government need to lift the quality of its investment performance?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, because we're dealing with a legacy of 10 years where the previous government spent large amounts on new capital in government. Much of that has been spent ineffectively. The attention paid to it by the public service has been just about zero. And so we're going through a significant exercise to make sure taxpayers get value for $230 billion of assets that they own.
Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr Speaker, I just seek some guidance as to when Mr Mallard can return. I would seek that he be able to return at the end of question time.
No, he is out for the day. Order. No one will comment on a Speaker's ruling. Members know that I do not throw many members out of this chamber if they're out for the day when I do ask them to leave. Question number 3, Materia Today.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.